All right, guys, here's chapter 5 of Chomps, Flea, and Gray Cat. That's me. We walked across the pasture, heading for the hayfield. Chomps raced around and jumped as we got close to the road. Stop, Chomps! You have to be careful when you go across. Not many cars go by here, but when they do, they usually are going too fast to stop for animals. Chomps paused and looked back at me. He waited at the edge of the road until I could catch up. I showed the little dog how to look carefully in both directions. I made him hold his breath and listen. If you don't see anything, and if you don't hear anything, then it's okay to go. His ears flopped when he nodded his head. The hunt began about the same as before. Chomps jumped and scampered after sounds that he thought he heard in the stiff grass. I watched him. It was easier to let him get some of the energy out of his system before we started any serious hunting. I finally decided that maybe we should just explore the hill. The mice were doing a good job of hiding anyway. Chomps ran ahead of me. Suddenly he stopped, spun around, and raced back as quickly as his little stubby legs would carry him. I couldn't believe how fast he was coming at me. My whiskers twitched when I saw how big his eyes were. "Gray, hurry!" he yapped. "What? It's huge!" he said, his eyes growing even bigger. "Makes the ones in the barn look like babies, and he's scared of me. He's running away." "What?" I repeated. I realized that Chomps was coming so fast that he wouldn't be able to stop. I crunched down close to the ground, closed my eyes, and braced myself. Sure enough, the pup slammed into me, fell over, and tumbled 3 times. When he scampered to his feet, he didn't even slow down long enough to shake the grass from his fur. He just charged. This time he jumped over me instead of falling. "Come on, Gray. It'll take both of us to carry him to the mat." "Chomps, what in the world are you talking about?" "The trophy!" He didn't even take time to glance over his shoulder at me. "It's the biggest trophy ever. Mama won't believe it. She'll be so proud of us. It's the most humongous rat I've ever seen in my whole life." I guess, to a puppy, the animal looked like a big rat. It was sort of gray and it had a long, ratty tail. I clamped my lips shut to keep from laughing as Chomps barked and barked at it. The possum stood its ground and hissed. Chomps hopped and leaped around, yipping until I thought he would knock himself over. I felt my eyes roll. The creature suddenly took off toward the creek. Chomps made small jumps at the possum's heels as they ran. At the stream, the animal stopped, bared his teeth, and hissed again. Chomps' eyes flashed, and he stumbled over himself when he ran backward. "Let's go, Chomps. You don't want him. He isn't going to hurt anything." I flipped my tail and moved toward the meadow. "But he's a giant trophy. He's a rat and—" "He's not a rat. He's a possum." "A what?" "Never mind. He's not a rat. Just come on." Chomps started toward me, still keeping an eye on the possum. Suddenly, the animal darted toward the water. Chomps charged him again, growling and making the chomping sound with his jaws. The possum fell over in a heap. Chomps' ears shot straight up, his head tilted to the one side. Curiously, he leaned toward the animal and nudged him with his nose. He jumped back. When the possum didn't move, Chomps shoved him again. Chomps looked back at me. "Is he dead?" "I didn't do anything." "Don't worry, he's okay. Possums play dead so their enemies will leave them alone. As soon as we get away and he knows that it's all safe, he will sneak off and forget all about us." Chomps nudged the thing one more time before he followed me toward the hill. Just as we settled into a nice pace, Chomps suddenly sniffed the air and took off running toward the creek. I perked my ears and tried to sniff the breeze to see what he was so interested in. I froze in fear as I suddenly realized what the little dog had found this time. Chomp's short, stubby legs raced at full speed toward the striped kitty. My whole body tensed. "Chomps, no, it's a skunk. If he sprays you, it will take 2 weeks for the smell to go away and—" The dumb mutt slid to a stop. He sneezed a couple of times, then spun and raced back to me. We were just lucky he smelled the varmint before it sprayed him. "Man, that guy stinks," he sneezed again. "No kidding," I nodded. "See how he's got his tail up? If he sprayed you, you'd stink." It looked like a black and white kitty cat. "You and Callie are fun to play with, and I just wanted to have a little chase game." "We're exploring today, dog. If you want a chase game with a cat, we can go back to the house and play in the yard." The little dog's ears flattened against his head. "I'd rather explore. I'll try to be careful." I swished my tail and we headed for the creek. There was only a trickle of water in the stream. I jumped over. Chomps managed to get one paw muddy when he sloshed through the water. I had to wait for him while he washed his paw. That dumb pup was always washing his feet. When he was done, he raced ahead of me. We hadn't gone far from the water when he stopped and began barking and bouncing again. What now, dog? My tail flipped so hard I had to move my hind legs to keep it from knocking me off balance. We would never make it to the rock hill at this rate. I saw that rock move. It's got legs. Chomps barked at it again. Chomps, it's a turtle. It looks like a rock, but I saw it move. If it moved, it will play with me. Then the mutt just hopped and yipped. I walked around to the other side. Look, here is its head. He has it tucked under his shell. If he decided to come out and get hold of your nose, you wouldn't think he was playing. Come on. The dog circled the turtle a few more times before he finally followed me. The raindrop hit me right between my ears. It was so big and fell so hard that it made my head bob. Blinking, I looked up at the sky. The huge gray clouds swept in from the west. They were dark and scary looking. Cats are always alert and aware of their surroundings. We are good about keeping an eye out what's going on around us. Nothing ever sneaks up on us cats. Trouble was, I had been so busy watching the crazy pup that I hadn't even noticed it coming. Now the storm was right on top of us. Another drop landed in front of me. It splashed water and dust up into my whiskers. A huge one hit Chomps right in the base of his tail. We'd never make it back home before the storm hit. It was too close. With a jerk of my tail, I motioned Chomps to follow. We scampered for the rock overhang. This chapter's a little long, so. The storm broke limbs and shook tender leaf buds to the ground. Water ran from the hill toward the creek in small rivers. The rain fell so hard and fast that the rock overhang where we huddled was almost like hiding behind a waterfall. There was lightning and thunder and rain that seemed to last forever. When it all finally rumbled away beyond the far hills, we decided that it was safe to leave our shelter. The fresh smell of rain filled the air as we walked toward the creek. The sound of running water came to my ears. The creek was no longer a trickle. Water and mud churned and tumbled as it rushed to fill the bed from the bank to bank. Listen, dog, I said, looking over my shoulder. You have to do exactly what I say and step exactly where I step. The creek is full. It's muddy and yucky. It's dangerous, too. You have to mind me and listen to everything I say or we could be in trouble, okay? Okay, his tail wagged. Promise? Promise. Callie saw us coming from the front porch. She stood up when I got close and swished her tail. What's wrong with you, Gray? Nothing, I hissed. What makes you think something's wrong? Callie tilted her head to one side and shrugged her ears. Oh, no reason. You're just all fuzzed up and your face looks like you've been chewing on a rotten mouse or something, that's all. I felt my eyes narrow when I saw Chomps appear at the edge of the pine trees. That darn pup promised he'd listen to me. We got across the creek all right. The water was really roaring and it was scary, but he followed me and got across safely. But, Callie urged, well, look for yourself. The little white pup was covered from head to tail with mud. He was a gooey mess. He sniffed the pine needles without a care in the world. A little drop of mud plopped from the tip of his tail when it swayed from side to side. He hit every mud puddle between here and the rock hill. He even rolled in a couple of them. Chomps is fun to be with, but he won't mind worth a flip. Mama's going to be so mad. She'll never let him out again. When she sees what a mess he's in, she'll... Relax, Gray, Callie said, cutting me off. They were so excited when they got back with the new car, they didn't even notice that he was gone. They even called the Garrisons to come over to look at it. All you have to do is get that pup back into his pen. They'll just think he got dirty and muddy from the rain. You'd better hurry, though. Chomps was still sniffing around the pine trees when I heard a car coming up the road. Hurry, Chomps! Get back in the pen before the company gets here. Chomps had already found the new car and was sniffing the big tires. What's that good smell, Gray? Come on, Chomps. Here come the Garrisons. The silver Buick drove into the driveway and the people stepped out. Mom and Daddy came out from the house. Chomps was near the back of the new car. Just as Mama opened the front door, Chomps jumped up and landed on the smooth leather seat, muddy feet and all. Oh boy.